Hello, my lovely, lovely, lovely dreamers. Welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Christina and I make ASMR videos. Happy New Year, everyone. It's Sunday night, late at night, and it's raining outside. I don't know if you can really hear it, but it's just the perfect atmosphere for another true crime story. This is the first true crime story of 2023. So sit back, relax and listen to another soft-spoken true crime story. Again, this is a ASMR channel. That's why I am whispering or using a soft-spoken voice. Let me put on my glasses and I can get started. Today's story is a special one. I was really impressed by it. It's a very frustrating case. Those who committed this outrageous crime had, after they had committed this, they lived their life, enjoyed every day of their life, and this is really, really frustrating. This is the case also known as the Alligator case, and you will see why. It is the case of Mike Williams, a successful man, American, very hardworking, a good man indeed. Family man, someone who was working hard to provide for his family, for his wife and for his daughter, a man who loved his family and his friends and who had been betrayed by both his wife and his friend. Jerry Michael, known as Mike Williams, left his home in Tennessee, Florida, United States, to go duck hunting. This was his absolute hobby. He had never returned home, and he was presumed to have drowned in Lake Seminole, located in the southwest corner of Georgia, along its border with Florida. Later, investigators came to suspect that he had been the victim of foul play, possibly at another location. His body was found in October 2017 near Tennessee, and it was confirmed that Mike was a victim of foreplay. Jerry Michael Williams, known as Michael or Mike, grew up in Bradfordville, and he was the son of two hard-working persons, a bus driver and a daycare provider, who raised him and his older brother Nick in a double-wide trailer instead of building a house. The parents saved their money so both boys could attend a good school, Florida Christian High School. And both boys, Mike and Nick, were hard-working boys who helped their parents working nights at supermarkets. Mike excelled as a student. He was absolutely brilliant. He served as student council president. He also played football. And at the age of 15, he began duck hunting as a hobby. After graduating from high school, he attended Florida State University, where he studied political science and urban planning. Before graduation, he was hired. He was already hired by a company where he distinguished himself as the hardest working man, according to the company's owner. But there's more to the story apart from the hard-working part, the studying part. Mike met a beautiful girl while they were in high school. They were high school sweethearts. He met a girl named Denise, and they started dating while they were both in high school. And at the same time, Mike's best friend started also dating a girl. And after some years, in 1994, Mike and Denise got married. And his best friend also got married, and in 1999 Mike's and Denise, a daughter was born, and their friends had a baby boy the same year, and life started being absolutely wonderful. Mike was a very good man, as I was telling you, family-oriented one, who loved his wife, his daughter, who loved his friends. He worked really hard. He earned very well, and he provided for his family. They bought a nice house in a good neighborhood. Denise didn't need to work because she had everything she wanted, but still, from what I've understood, she had a part-time job. Denise was a blonde beauty, and Mike's family really liked her. They thought that she was the best choice for him. So they bought a home in a nice neighborhood on the east side of the city. He was devoted only to his family and his work, and from time to time he used to go dog hunting with his best friend. His best friend's name was Brian, and these two couples started going out together, you know, doing things young people do, and they started doing those things they didn't do when they were in high school, because they used to work really hard back then and didn't have time to do this. So they started going out together, all four of them, you know, drinking, dancing, enjoying life, and so on, nothing unusual. And from time to time, Mike and Brian used to go together duck hunting. But you know that sometimes everything seems to be perfect from the outside. A nice family, perfect family, hard-working man, a beautiful wife, a perfect daughter. Nice cars, everything they wanted. They were planning to go on a cruise, holidays, nice friends, and so on. But things between Mike and Denise didn't go well. Denise felt neglected. She felt abandoned. She considered Mike some sort of workaholic who prefers spending most of his time at work. He was a hard-working man. He tried to earn for his family, offer them the best, because he was a poor boy and he knew what it meant to want something and not have it, and he really wanted to offer his daughter everything she really needed. And at this let's call them date, when they used to go out, they're not a date, but still, you see why I call this date. So they used to go out, all four of them, and nothing was out of order, to say so. Brian had never been attracted to Denise. They had known each other since high school, of course, but they started exchanging glances at one of these meetings, and they started calling each other. Denise started confessing to him how unhappy she was, how neglected she was, how sad she was as a wife, and they started to become closer and closer, if you know what I mean. And at a certain point, Denise stopped, allowing Mike to touching her, and Brian did the same with his wife. Mike didn't know what was happening. He had no idea. He noticed that something was really wrong. He noticed that Denise was withdrawing large sums of money from the bank account, and he assumed the worst, that she had big problems, that she was in debt, that she became addicted to something and needed to pay. And while he went together with Brian on these hunting trips, driving together for hours and hours, he used to open his heart, pour his heart out to his best friend. He used to tell him everything, that he was so unhappy, that he didn't know what was going on, that Denise was acting strangely, that she used to withdraw large sums of money, and he was worried. And Brian knew everything. They were lovers. Denise was his mistress. She withdrew that money to meet with him, to use that money for their dates, for their weekends together. And he couldn't tell anything, so that's why I say it was double betrayal. The betrayal of Mike's wife and the betrayal of his very best friend. And both of them were able to do this together, to plot everything behind Mike's back. So there were big troubles in Denise and Mike's marriage. But on one December morning, it was the 16th of December 2000, Mike left the house well before dawn to go duck hunting at Lake Seminole. He was really hopeful because it was their wedding anniversary, the 6th wedding anniversary. Think about this, 6 years into the marriage, and Denise had been already bored. And they had plans for that afternoon. They wanted to go to bed and breakfast and spend some time together and try to see what was wrong in their marriage and try to fix these things. So Mike was really hopeful. And that morning he left home to go duck hunting. Lake Seminole is approximately 80 kilometers west-northwest of Tallahassee, located in the southwest corner of Georgia along its border with Florida. And unfortunately, Mike had never returned from his hunting trip. At noon, really worried apparently, Denise called her father to tell him that Mike had not returned. Brian Winchester's, Mike's best friend. Brian Winchester's father drove with Brian to the area of the lake where they knew Mike frequently went duck hunting. They found there his 1994 Ford car near a remote boat launch in Jackson County on the Florida side. After investigators with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission were called, a search began, but soon the search had to be called off because there was a storm. So, a missing hunter had been reported missing, and the searcher focused on search and rescue recovery. They focused on the 10 acres of the lake surrounding the cove where Mike's truck was parked. His boat was soon found 69 meters away from the ramp, and it was spotted by a helicopter pilot who initially assumed it was one of the boats used in the search. But there was no sign of Mike himself. The searcher assumed that Mike had hit a stump with his boat, fallen out, sunk into waters that are 3.7 meters deep, and that he unfortunately drowned, and he was unable to save himself. But still, there was no sign of the body. So if Mike had drowned, his body would have been expected to eventually float to the surface, make it easier to be discovered. Because that's what happens within 3 or 7 days. Sometimes even after 10 days into the search, a hunting hat was found, but it could not be connected to Mike. They couldn't prove that had belonged to Mike. The search continued until they were finally called off. The efforts continued until the search was eventually called off in early February. At that time, the case was still considered open. It's telling you that they had found Mike's boat, and the initial theory was that he had fallen out after a collision, and there were no remains or body, and it was eventually concluded that his body had been eaten by alligators. At a certain point, they found waders and a jacket containing William's hunting license. But these things had been found in the lake 6 months later. 6 months later. And those waiters and the jacket and the driving license and also a torchlight, everything was intact. So the water hadn't affected these things in any way. And thanks to these, Mike was declared legally dead following a court petition by his widowed niece. So, Brian, another interesting thing, his job was to deal with life insurance policies, and Brian convinced Mike to take out a large life insurance policy shortly before his disappearance. And the beneficiary of this was, of course, Denise. So Denise became a rich widow. And guess what? She went on to marry Brian Winchester, so they got married, and Brian moved to Mike's house, and they both slept in Mike's bed. That's okay. So, up to a point, this was a perfect murder. It's like a thriller, but it's real life, which is worse. So we had two couples that they are friends. At a certain point, Denise and Brian started dating, seeing each other, and they started plotting against their life partners, looking for solutions, how to get rid of them. Divorce was out of Denise didn't want to deal with divorce. She didn't want to share custody. It was really better just to become the merry widow. And they started when they, while they were having these romantic meetings, they weren't talking about love and stuff like this. They were talking how to get rid of their partners. So Brian convinced Mike to take out that life insurance. And shortly after this, Mike disappeared. And because there was nobody, Denise couldn't collect the insurance. So some things belonging to Mike suddenly appeared 6 months. And she could take the money. She married his husband's best friend. And they lived happily ever after. But no, because sometimes karma really does its job. Some investigators felt that there was something strange about the alligator theory, and Mike's mother had never given up on finding her son and finding out what really happened to him. After years of pressure from Mike's mother, the case was reopened in 2004. The niece was really angry about this and told her ex-mother-in-law that if she had had the case reopened, she would have forbidden her from seeing her granddaughter. But still, Mike's mother didn't give up. And the officers had learned that alligators do not feed during winter months because the water is too cold. So it was suspected that foul play might have occurred. But still they did not have any new evidence, as the potential crime scene had not been secured during the search for Mike. Mike's mother wrote letters daily to the governor, asking him to have the state reopen the investigation, even though the later investigations were unable to uncover any significant new info. It's really heartbreaking to watch Mike's mother. There are a lot of videos online that good woman who sacrificed everything to raise two good, hard-working boys. She was crying for his boy and begging for the case to be reopened. Initially thought that Mike's body had become entangled beneath the lake and found by the alligators, turtles, and that was it. Denise Williams had avoided media attention during the search for her husband and accepted that he had died. She arranged a memorial service for Mike to be held the day after the search ended. I knew that in June, 6 months after Mike went missing, a pair of waders floating in the lake were discovered, and they also discovered a lightweight hunting jacket and a flashlight. And in one of the jacket's pockets there was a hunting license with Mike's name and signature. However, everything was intact. There were no teeth marks or any other damage on the recovered items. Nothing showed signs that they have been in the water for such a long period of time. And still, A judge granted Denise Williams' petition to have Mike declared legally dead based on those recovered items and on the assumption that alligators and other water life had consumed the body entirely. This court's decision allowed Denise to immediately proceed with claims on her husband's life insurance policies, from which she received $1.5 million. 5 years later, she married Brian Winchester, the one who had sold Mike some of the policies a few months before he disappeared. In 2012, the love story between Denise and Brian ended. They separated, reportedly due to his addiction, a very special type of addiction, you can imagine. I cannot name it here. SEX addiction. She filed for divorce in 2015. And Brian didn't really want to divorce Denise. I don't know, maybe he was still in love with her. And what he did, he kidnapped Denise at gunpoint. So on August 5th, where she left her home to drive to her job at Florida State University, she was talking on the phone to her sister. She saw someone climb over the back seat of her car. Of course, it was Brian. He took her phone away and began yelling at her. Of course, she did not cooperate, but he showed her the gun. Instead of going on where he wanted her to, she pulled into a drugstore parking lot, very close to the door. Brian told her that he was planning to take his own life with that gun. He did not want the divorce, and he had nothing more to live for. He assured her he did not want to harm her. She was able to calm him down and took him back to where he had parked his own truck at a nearby park. And he took a tan sheet, a different colored plastic sheet, a spray bottle of bleach, and a tool from Denise's car. After she left, Brian pulled up to her and apologized for his actions. She promised to him not to go to the police and tell them about the incident. But guess what? She drove straight to them afterwards and told everything to the police. And Brian was arrested and charged with kidnapping, domestic assault, and armed burglary. Denise requested protection orders, saying that she feared for her life and her daughter's life. After hearing the next week, at which she said she could neither eat or sleep since the incident, the court decided to hold Brian without bond. Mike's mother, remember her, was hopeful that this development could lead to the resolution of her son's disappearance. And she was right. In December 2017, Brian Winchester was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the kidnapping, with credit for 502 days time served, to be followed by 15 years probation. No mention was made of the Williams case at Brian's Winchester sentencing, although the state attorney told the media that he hoped the case against Winchester would help authorities solve that disappearance. Later it was reported that he had reached an agreement with prosecutors before the sentencing that they would neither seek a life sentence on the kidnapping charge nor introduce certain evidence at the hearing. What that agreement required of Winchester, if anything beyond his guilty plea, has not been disclosed. The next day at a news conference, a special agent in charge announced to the reporters that Mike's body had been found, and it had been determined that he was the victim of foul play. However, they declined to release any details, how he had been killed, who might be a suspect or person of interest, or where the body had been found. Brian decided to talk, and he told them the whole story, told them about the affair, that they were plotting to get rid of their partners, and they were talking about ways of getting rid of their partners, and that day when Mike disappeared, according to their plan, right, the plan was like this. Brian and Mike were supposed to meet directly at the location, an established location, to go duck hunting. That day, Brian should have met his father-in-law. A day previous, a day before, he made sure that his wife had enough to drink so that she wouldn't wake up. He and his wife had been to a concert together, and he put some sort of medication into her drinks so that he could leave early in the morning without being noticed. So he left the house early in the morning, went duck hunting together with with Brian. And there were a lot of videos on YouTube where he confesses during the trial and says how he did it. So he just pushed Mike, made him fall from the boat and shot him. So imagine poor Mike, the last image he saw was his best friend trying to kill him. I wonder if he had understood what was going on. It's extremely, extremely sad. Of course, Denise was arrested on the 8th of May 2018. Denise Williams was arrested at Florida State University as she left work to celebrate her daughter's 19th birthday. Minutes after a grand jury had indicated her on charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and accessory after the fact. Prosecutors continued to keep details of the crime to themselves, saying they would share them in court when the time came. Denise's attorney declined to comment at that time, saying he had not had time to review the case. At Denise's trial, the state star witness was Brian himself. The state star's witness was Brian Winchester, who testified at length about their relationship. Kathy, Brian's first wife, told the jury that she had suspected the two having an affair when they frequently double-dated with Mike and Denise. Brian said in his confessions that the affair had started in 1997 and just snowballed. After this, the two began to consider getting rid of Mike so that they could get married. Denise suggested staging a boating accident on the Gulf of Mexico, where they could throw both Mike and Kathy overboard. Imagine this. But Brian did not want to do this to his children's mother. So to love, if you really love your child, you don't do this to your child, to your children. How could Denise do this to her daughter? After rejecting plans for a crime at Mike's office meant to look like a robbery, Brian hit on the idea of this hunting accident. On the day when Mike disappeared, Brian said he had enticed him to Lake Seminole. Out on the water, he had gotten Mike to put the waders on, then pushed him out of the boat, thinking he would be unable to resurface and that he would drown. But instead he managed to get to a tree stump. So Brian fired a single shotgun blast to his face. since Mike's death could no longer be passed off as a boating accident, Brian buried the body where it was later found, then cleaned out his truck and went to a family Christmas party where he learned that a search was underway. He and Denise took it slow after Mike's accident, both to let the insurance money earn further interest and to allay suspicion. The kidnapping that had led to his present imprisonment was his reaction to fear that she would reveal the truth. In February 2019, Denise was sentenced to life in prison. She did not speak or offer any argument on her behalf. The only person to address the court besides the lawyers was Cheryl Williams, who said that justice had finally been served, and that Denise had not taken only her son, but also her granddaughter from her. In January 2020, Denise Williams appealed her conviction and life sentence. Her attorney argued before the Florida First District Court of Appeals that there was no evidence she was involved in the commission of the murder. In November 2020, the murder conviction was overturned, but the conspiracy to commit murder conviction was upheld, including the 30-year sentence that accompanied. And this is the sad ending of this story. One lady and the lives of two men totally destroyed. I don't know, sometimes people seem to have everything and still it's not enough. I just wonder how these two slept, lived, laughed in the house of that good man who was a husband and a friend. How could they sleep well at night? Cannot imagine. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this case? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed my story, please don't forget to drop a like. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you have suggestions for new cases, please leave a comment below. Thank you very much again and see you next time. Bye bye.